So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by Phrase. Today, we are looking at the introduction to phrase strings. Thank you for taking the time and tuning in for the webinar today. My name is Clara, and I'm happy to see so many of you joining us for this session. Now, I'm happy to introduce today's speaker. It is Vasilis Moschos, and he is our Senior Solution Architect, and he will now proceed with the demonstration of phrase strings. So I will now stop sharing my screen, and over to you, Vasilis.
Thank you very much, Clara. I will also stop my video and start sharing my screen.
Okay. Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Thank you, Clara. So today we'll be doing an introduction to the phrase strings platform, covering the most basic aspects as well as some of the most powerful automations that are available within the strings platform. As you can see on my screen, I'm in my strings environment. I've logged in as an admin, so I have full access to all the projects and all the aspects of the system. I am essentially in God mode. And the first thing you see here are my projects. So for the strings environment, the most fundamental aspect is the project. The project is a container containing all the available configurations and options and users, and most importantly, the keys to be translated. Some explanation on the terminology. A key is essentially a segment of text coming from a repository or from an authoring tool or from a file. And this is what gets translated within the strings environment. So there are different ways of getting keys to a project, which we'll also see during the demonstration today. So the first thing you would need to do is create a new project. And as you can see, we can also group them in different spaces. So you can create your own groups here. You can also have your own configuration of spaces. For example, I have created a space called webinar, and I can add a project there. Now to do so, you simply click create new project. You give it a name. So let's call it webinar project. I know it's not the most inventive, but will do. And then you select the main format for this project. So let's go to get it. And then also name technology. Again, those can be changed after the project is created. Let's go with React. And once it's saved, you can follow this wizard, allowing you. Yes, Clara, there's a question? Guess not. Sorry, because I can't see you. So again, I'll be asking that a lot.
No questions so far.
Oh, it's fine. So once we set up the languages for this project, you can select from the whole list of languages here. So I'm just going to go with simple English version to German, and I'm going to add another one, Spanish. So now we have created our languages. We can also directly upload a file, or if we want, we can also sync your project or this project with the GitHub repository and get the keys from GitHub, or we can also do that from Figma. But for this, I'm just going to upload a test file. So working with POs, I'm going to use a PO file here. And I can either create a new language, or in this case, I'm just going to use my existing language as a source, which will be English. I can also add tags if I want to tag my content there. And I can use the message ID as a default translation, so the key name, but this isn't the most commonly used because the message ID essentially is a key name, and in the system that should be translated. And I can simply import that. And now I can complete the setup by either inviting coworkers, I can open the editor, or I can just bypass that and go straight to my project. Interesting option here is to invite coworkers. I can also add anybody from my team, or I can search for anybody else who can be assigned to this project. In this case, I have nobody, so I'm just going to have to translate myself. To create users or to add users to any of your projects in the system, it's super easy, barely any inconvenience. You simply come here and you add a new user. You have to give them, and you have to send them an invitation, so the system invites them via email. So let's say I'm just having this user. I can actually use my own. Okay. So how this looks like. So now I have to select the default role. from the roles available in the system. I can be either admin, translator, designer, or guest. I'm just going to become translator. And there are further more actions allowing you to give or restrict access to the linguist within the system. So I am permitted to upload all files, review translations, and view unassigned spaces. I need to have also some language combinations. So let's select languages that I do speak. It's fine, I guess. And I can also get access to specific projects or not. So in this case, I'm just going to be added to my webinar project. And I'm the pending invitation. Once I accept that, I can log into the system as the linguist. So coming back to the project I just created, the project still hasn't got any keys. So we have created the structure, we're having the languages there, but we need to create a new job for our keys that are updated here. So essentially the job dictates how the keys are going to be translated. And there can be two types of jobs in the system, either a translation, or if it's required, you can also add the review step where the keys are being reviewed for enhanced quality. As you can see, automatically the job takes the timestamp, date stamp from the creation, but you can rename it, so it's not called translation. I can also add a small briefing, so if any additional information is required to the linguist that we added here, I can set up my due date. If it's not required, select that. There's option to connect this to external systems, for example, Jira, Trello. And here's where I select the keys for translation. So I have 4 keys. I can add them all here. And then I'm using English as my source language, and I can add all other target languages as well. And of course, I can have translators selected from here. I can add myself, or anybody else in the system can be added from here. And this can also be saved as a template. So whenever I create this job exactly, I can quickly select that from the template. So now the job is created, as you can see, but it's not started. So I can manually start that. And now we have created our job, and we can go into our editor and process the keys and translate them. So let's select the German version here, and let's send it to the editor. So this is the editor, this is the end environment for the strings, and I have my source language here, target languages, and I can also see all of the languages in the project. If I select it like this, all the keys will have these 3 options. And I can either come here manually and get suggestions. This is from the machine translation suggestion. This comes from Google Translate. Or I can do that in batch. So let's say I want to translate everything in once. I'll simply select all 4 keys. I can update the status immediately, so set them verified, but I have no translation. So let's pre-translate that. Sorry, I just have to go with one language. Otherwise, the system will not be able to select. No. No, I have to activate the pre-translation option. So again, in your project, you can come to more settings, project settings, and allow pre-translation. So once this is enabled, I can translate new keys, I can translate new uploads, and a new language. I can use translation memory, meaning that any other project within the strings environment will be used as translation memory. And I can use machine translation as well. And I can set them mark as verified. So once that's done, now I can do that. Okay, let's select the keys. Now I have the option to pre-translate my keys. It's in progress. And once I press, it's still keys. Okay, so my translation is there. I already have it from machine translation engine. We selected essentially that's Google, and I have all my keys ready and pre-translated as well. Additionally, we can integrate a Figma preview for your keys if the keys come from a Figma environment, so the linguist will be able to see the preview of the Figma file they're working on. This can be integrated on a key level, so either a specific key or for all your keys in the project. So let me find a project with Figma integration, aptly named Figma strings, and let's see how it looks like in the editor. So open this Spanish file. So we have a few keys that are coming from a Figma file, and the preview here gives the linguist or the editor clear overview of what they're translating and where they are. So this can also be enlarged. You can see that have full access to the source material. Bear in mind, this is the source text from the Figma environment, and it's not showing you the target environment, but it allows you to see where each of the text is. And this can be associated with either, as I said, one key or all the keys in the project. Additionally, Figma can be integrated directly with strings and can send content from the Figma environment to the strings via a plugin. So let's go into our Figma environment. And as you can see, I have this little page of a cat, a Lego cafe, and this is the phrase strings plugin. You can find it in the Figma marketplace. You need to install it, configure it, and it'll be available here in your plugins. We have also a plugin for the TMS, but that's a discussion for another time. Another strings plugin, simply activate it. And then it automatically recognizes all the available tags here, the available content that can be sent over the keys, and you can push them directly to strings. So you have a key name, you have the content, and the status of the key. So let's send them over to a project. You can select a project. As you can see in our demo environment, we have lots of projects. I want to send them to my webinar project. As I mentioned, in the strings environment, you can also have branches. I didn't mention, I'm mentioning it now. So you can have also branches within the environment allowing you to have versions of your keys there, which are protected and of course can also be merged at some point if that's required. Let's translate this to Spanish. I can also enter tags. The connector will also push screenshots, so you will be able to see it's translating. I can update my content and I can update my key names if that's required. So let's push this to my project. So now the plugin compiles the API call and sends over the content to strings. Once that's done, you can access that project directly from the plugin. So I can either come in and create a job, or I can open it and create strings. So I'm just going to create a job. So from the plugin, you're taken straight into your project, and you can add a job for the keys that you send over. So I'm going to call this Figma translation. And I have selected 9 of 13 keys because the 4 keys who pre-existed in the project are not part of this package. So I only want to translate these 9 selected keys, and I want to go to Spanish. I start the job, and I'm going to pre-translate everything and then push it back to Figma environment so you will see it around you. So let's go to Spanish. Okay, so I have my email. You see the picture here of the cat. I have my preview available, and it's going to pre-translate it to Spanish. So the keys. When I press it, I should be able to see the Spanish version. Oh, sorry, this was selected as a source language, so Spanish will not be translated. Let's add some content changes. Okay, so this is done. Now in my roadmap project, I complete the job. This can also be done automatically once all keys are translated. I can simply come here as a PM and my job is complete. So the job is done, and now I can pull my keys back, pull the translations. I already see my translation here, and I can create a new version, new page, or I can either replace the existing one. If it's required, you will override the English version, but normally you would create a new page for this, and you can connect those keys with existing keys. So pulling back to Figma, we have our Spanish page. We have a version of French here, and this is my Spanish translation. It's not the best one, but I'm not so proud. But this is how the Figma plugin integrates with strings, either as a preview option or as a pure connector, allowing you to push content and receive content back to Figma seamlessly to the strings environment. One more powerful integration from the strings side is the option to update an application over the air, or OTA. In Greek, that's called OTA. So essentially, you can create keys in your in strings and then update them for an application in real time over the air. This is done by creating a project and getting the keys from that project sent over to the application. And since strings can integrate with GitHub, you can also get those keys directly from a GitHub repository, translate them in strings, and then push them over to your app. To do so, you would have to create a project which contains your keys. I have one here called AutoTest1. And this contains keys from our application. Essentially, these are only 3 keys that are part of the Phrase app in my emulator. So let's see those keys here. So we have the other example from Phrase and Hello World. I add a new key here, but that's not part of the application. And this is how the application looks like. It's another example from Phrase and says Hello World. So let's say I want to change the greeting message here in real time, and I want to make it something like hello everyone in the webinar. First thing I have to do is edit the key. So change that from hello world to exit. Great change, save it, and now this key is updated. But it still hasn't reached the application because I need to create a version. So in order to do so, you come into your integrations, and in over-the-air option, you create a new distribution. Essentially, the distribution allows you to push versions of your keys to your application. So you can give it a name associated with the project, which is important because once associated, it cannot be edited. Select the languages for that project and the platforms you want to use. The over-the-air application allows you to sync with all these 4 platforms, so Android, iOS, Flutter, and React. And you can create releases for all these 4 at the same time. I already have created my distribution here, and these endpoints are also required for your application to see the strings environment and communicate with that. The distribution ID plus these 2 secret tokens, either for the development environment or for production environment. These will be added to your main app, and they're here. So for my setup, I have my distribution ID here and my environment. In this case, the IXC token is for my production environment. So I'm not pushing keys only straight to the development environment. I'm pushing them directly to production. So any change on the app will be immediately visible to all the users of the app directly. So I've changed the key, but as you can see, still here in our application, still says hello world because I haven't released that version. So let me quickly stop the app and reset it, which might be a bit tricky because I'm using the cursor to use phone. Excellent. So that's closed. And now let's release the key. So to do so, you come here, create a release, you can add a description. So this is webinar. I'm selecting my platform here. Distribution only works with Android. I don't have a branch, and I just want to update the English version. I can also add some tags and set up my app version so it will only affect a minimum or a maximum version. And save it. Now, this release is active, but it's only sent to development because by default, every new release goes to development. To send it to the production environment, you would have to manually do that. So let me press the page. And now I can publish it to my production environment. Okay, so release was published successfully. And if I come back to my emulator here, restart the app, we should see my message. Takes a few seconds for the build to be compiled. So that's pretty fast. And it still has to come through. Stop. Set it. As I mentioned, it's kind of tricky to use touchscreen with a cursor. Okay, let's press that for memory and rewind. And there you have it. So this is how the strings can update your application over the air without any requirement to go and update any other repository. So this is essentially the purest form of CI/CD for your applications. Additionally, strings can be integrated with our in-context editor, allowing you to translate and view your translation within an environment that actually updates in real time and gives you clear overview of what the translation will be looking like in your target text. Similar to that of a Figma preview, but this is an interactive editor. So it will look like something like this. This can be integrated with your strings environment. And we have a demo page here. As you can see, it's right in German. Any of the content here marked with a pencil can be edited. So let's change the translation for the title. So übersetze Texte direkt auf deine Webseite. Let's change that. Oh, probably locked out quite a bit. 1 second, please. Okay, so if I change something in the field, you will see the change take place in real time. So if I translate something horribly wrong, like this, you can clearly see that within the in-context editor, how the translation will look like. So this can be also integrated within strings, giving you full access to far more robust contextual translation for all your keys, allowing you to actually respect any segment limitation or any length limit that should be applied to your keys, which additionally can also be part of the editor per se. Everything can be set up in the editor with a limit. So if I want to set this key, the specific limit, I can come here and I can set a character limit for my key. So let's say I want this to never exceed 40 characters. If that's the case, I already have an error here because my key exceeds this limit. But again, this doesn't contain the contextual environment, which the in-context editor offers, which is far more powerful than the simple editor of the strings environment. Clara, I don't think I've had any questions so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I covered everything with the agenda.
Okay, thank you. We just received a question now, as you mentioned it. It's from
Okay.
Stefan. It's from Stefan. Could you show how strings work in integration with a CMS, for example, Contentful?
For Contentful, I don't think we have a direct integration. For strings, we would have in the TMS. The integration I can show you is with GitHub. Oh, actually, I haven't installed it yet. Apparently, it was wrong. Sorry about that. We do have an integration with Contentful, but I don't have it installed now, and I cannot demo it now. I can show you how GitHub is integrated, which is pretty similar using the YAML file configuration. So essentially, to connect GitHub, not Contentful, you'd have to add a YAML file, which is a configuration file dictating the connection. And then you can also connect a sample or a project file from your GitHub repository. So the file will contain an access token, which can be generated from your profile in the strings environment, and will be associated with the project ID. And then the parameters for push and pull are also dictated here. So you associate a file from your repository, set up the local IDs. If you want to update the translations, you set this Boolean operator to true, and then you dictate the file format. So anything that is updated in your sample file here will be pushed to your project in the strings environment. Apologies, Stefan, I owe you a video of the Contentful integration. If you could send us your email, I will prepare the video and send it to you.
Thank you, Vasilis. We can absolutely get in touch with Stefan afterwards. So yeah, we can answer that better. Next question is, can phrase strings integrate with some website builders?
Any suggested website builders? We do integrate with a lot of options, and we do have a robust API capability. Did you have something in mind?
Yeah, maybe someone can have add a specific website builder that they have in mind. And we have one more question. Can I test new translation releases via OTA before actually deploying them to users into production?
Yes, that's how the OTA works. So essentially, you would be sending them to development environment, not production. And in the development environment, you will see that without being published in your active app.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Yeah, Stefan adds, how about showing the integration with WordPress as a website builder example?
Interesting again. Again, Stefan, I don't have it set up, and I owe you a video of that as well.
Yeah, it's I guess difficult to do it on the spot as we have so many integrations, but
No,
definitely
because
if we set up a call with the solution architect, they can show you what you're interested in specifically. Is that right, Vasilis?
absolutely, yes, because the purpose of the webinar today was a one-on-one introduction to the strings environment, and these two connectors are a bit more of a deep dive. But Stefan, if you're interested, we can have a call and go over these integrations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The important thing is that the integrations exist. So that's good, and we can schedule that call to go into the deep detail. As there are no other questions at the moment, I would like to invite our attendees to our other past webinars. So I will share my screen. So here I would like to suggest to watch the Meet the All New Strings Editor webinar, where we go into a little bit more of a detail in the editor itself. So if you're interested in that, you can go to phrase.com/resources/webinars, and you can find a recording of the webinar there. And as well as the editor webinar, we also have an introduction to Phrase TMS for project managers available on our website. So if you are interested in the other pillar of our technology, not just Phrase strings, but also Phrase TMS, which stands for Translation Management System, you can also find a recording on our website. So that will be all from us today. I will check one more time if there are any questions. No, I can see any more questions. So thank you very much, Vasilis, for the demonstration and for answering the questions. And our audience can leave us some feedback after we close up this session. There will be a short survey popping up, so you can let us know some suggestions for further topics or basically some feedback on today's session. So thank you very much, everyone, and wishing everyone a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Clara.